The ABC journalist has been covering this story since his award-winning report on asbestos for Radio National Science Report back in 1977. So he's been on the trail for a while. He joins us right now in the breakfast studio. Matt, welcome.
Morning, Fran.
Matt, your book lifts the lid on the breadth and the depth of James Hardie's deceit, the ongoing denials which led to literally thousands of deaths. Can we pinpoint, or have you been able to pinpoint, when did James Hardie know that asbestos killed?
Well, put it this way, Fran. I mean, they first got sued back in 1939 for asbestosis. So certainly they were on notice at that point, and they had a string of company inspections by the health authorities around the country because in Britain there have been regulations passed controlling the use of asbestos. So it goes back until the 1930s. The cancer link was developed somewhere around about the 1940s. The Germans knew about it, 1950s. They were certainly placed on notice. And the mesothelioma, which is the particularly deadly cancer that was specifically identified as associated with asbestos, they knew about from the late 1950s, early 1960s.
Just reading through your book, there seems to be a flurry of concern within James Hardie around the 60s, because overseas information was coming out about the impact.
Yeah, absolutely. And by then, people were starting to drop. It was really clear from the legacy of Wittenoom, which supplied a lot of Hardie blue asbestos, or all of Hardie's blue asbestos, that you didn't need very much exposure at all. And, you know, housewives who were washing their husbands' overalls, people who just lived next door to the factories were contracting mesothelioma. And it was something that the James Hardie doctor pointed out. He said, look, people next door to the factory could be at risk. So
James Hardie knew, but those people didn't know. This is the great shame here. I mean, what did James Hardie do about it? Well,
they were making a lot of money. That's what they did about it. They kept making money. I mean, to argue that they took action the minute they knew is just ludicrous. As late as 1983, 1984, James Hardie was making representations to our premier health authority, the National Health and Medical Research Council, to say, don't ban brown asbestos. We need it for our pipes. If you ban it, we'll have to shut down our factories. And in the spirit of cooperation, our premier health authority said, oh, okay, we won't.
And that's clear in your book. Many of the health authorities for many years played ball with James Hardie.
Hardie used to fly.
You wouldn't have got away with this in nowadays, where we have the internet and we all know what's going on around the world.
Well, one hopes. But you've got to remember, I mean, Hardie saw everybody coming. They knew about this stuff a long time before anybody else. So the unions, the health authorities, all of those people relied on Hardie to give them their information. I mean, Hardie wasn't a matter of complying with regulations. Hardie wrote the regulations.
And talk about Hardie, the company's called James Hardie. It may as well have been called John Reed.
Yeah, it's a lie, the name, like most of the things this company's ever done.
Who's John Reed?
John Reed and the Reed family were the ones that got the company into asbestos. The real James Hardie died, or got out of the company anyway, in 1912. The company got into asbestos in 1916. And there's another Sir James Hardie, of course, the sailor, and revered Australian whose son, gets extremely upset. He's got a medical condition whenever these stories hit the deck. And I ran into him at a drinks one time and I said, you must hate John Reed. And he spun around. We had a good conversation because the Reed family made their family fortune out of asbestos. John Reed we don't know about, of course, because he's out there as the revered philanthropist handing money out to charities and art galleries and the like, and having buildings named after him and running up to Charles Sturt University to rename the scholarship from the James Hardie Industries Scholarship to the John B. Reed Scholarship.
But we do know that his name was on some documents back in the 60s and 70s, which made it clear that he understood that there were...
Certainly was, and there's no question about that. And I mean, one of the things I recount in the book is Bernie Banton's trial, because Bernie, like me, really wanted to see Reed to front up to court, because this guy has never actually explained what his family did and what they thought. And I genuinely tried to approach him several times, had a brief conversation, several letters over this book, because if you've got 20,000, an estimated 20,000 victims of James Hardie's asbestos, that's a third of our toll in World War I. You know, that's a huge number of Australians that have been affected by this company. Then I think the guy that ran the company for 23 years, during a time, I might add, Fran, because mesothelioma has a latent period of 40 years, the massive numbers of cancers that we're seeing now are as a result of exposures during his time, then I think he's got a duty to answer to those people.